All right, well, let's go ahead and get started since it's after 10 now. So thank you for joining us. My name is Daniel Root, and my father, Dr. David Root, is going to have a little bit of a plug here because he is the person who actually put his career on the line, literally, to bring our protocol to you. And keep in mind, the original program was not designed for gadolinium, but it was designed for occupational medicine and drug addiction rehab. So let's go ahead and click through the slide deck here. So my father is a retired Colonel Dr. David E. Root, and he has served 20 years in the United States Air Force, and he was a research pilot physician. So he was one of 10 flying physicians in the Air Force. And this is a picture of him back in the 70s. He was also an astronaut trainee for the Manned Orbital Lab program, which was a secret, in fact, top secret military space program that literally never did take off. But the military has had a secret space program, and so his involvement was as a flight surgeon to be included in these rockets that would go off into space to take pictures of the Soviet Union during that time frame. So this was the Manned Orbital Lab program right there. He also was a flight surgeon at Beale Air Force Base, so he was working with the SR-71 flight crews, and his top secret clearance had him also become an exchange officer with the Royal Air Force. So he was doing in-flight medical research for the Royal Air Force. And this was a modified Hawker Hunter that he flew in order to do that in-flight medical research. It was mostly a high G type of training or studies that they were doing. So he's the only American doctor who was awarded the Queen's Commendation for valuable service in the air. This is a very prestigious, and he's very well honored for that. He was actually elected a fellow of the Royal Aeronautical Society. I got sidetracked by my cat, sorry. And then also he was a fellow of the American College of Occupational Environmental Medicine. So his credentials are pretty solid, and he's done several research papers before he got involved with this detox program that I'm sharing with you today. Now, hopefully you've had a chance to watch the 48-minute video that I've linked in that original event posting, because that explains the protocol better than I'm going to have time to do today. So if you please watch that 48-minute video, you'll get a better idea of what this program is truly all about and how it works. So I'm giving you some background here because my father is a Christian medical director for a company that was called HealthMed. And he came across this protocol because he was in the process of trying to treat a couple of patients who were exposed to fumes in a 650,000-gallon water tank. These were painters that were not wearing any personal protective equipment. And so they were very ataxic or clumsy after they got exposed to all these fumes and solvents. And they were very unable to have a very cognitive discussion. And their wives were ready to divorce them because they were argumentative. And so they were looking for treatment a year after they had gone through that paint experience. So my father was trying to treat them. And what happened was that serendipitously, he received a brochure from a company called Body Pure, who were more in the drug addiction rehab space. So they were using sauna, exercise, and niacin to treat drug addiction. Now, my father received a brochure from them, and at first he thought it sounded hokey, so he threw it in the trash. However, he went ahead and scheduled to meet with them, and they gave him this 4-inch binder that had a lot of research in it. So the research was actually explaining how their program works. And the word sauna was the reason why he took an interest in it, because when I was a kid back in the 70s, we had a sauna. And this is from a brochure that we used for a rental property that we owned. And you can see there was a dry sauna in that space. So let me let some people in here real quick. Anyway, so we grew up with saunas. I already knew the value of them. In fact, we lived in Europe for 6 years. So back in those days, we were definitely seeing, the value and health benefits of sauna. So this was not a surprise to us when my father mentioned that he was going to be involved with this, this group that was bringing this to the public. So and what it turns out was that this group was a splinter group of Scientologists. They were bringing the purification rundown that L. Ron Hubbard had created to the public without the stigma of Scientology recruitment. Now, my father, being a Christian medical doctor, wasn't so terribly, worried about that aspect of it. However, he realized he was putting his reputation on the line by bringing this into his medical practice. But just know that the protocol had a lot of very valuable, well, there's research behind it, but it was also very, very effective. The thing is that it was operating with some misunderstandings of niacin. So one of the things you'll find in that 48-minute video are the 4 things that we changed from the original Hubbard method. But you will see that this was actually something that was developed by L. Ron Hubbard originally, but we've modified it dramatically. So got some more people coming in, hold on. So this is the center that we created in 2017. And this is where a lot of the actual advancements or enhancements were actually done. So this is basically the first center that I had true involvement with. And this is where we've developed the much shorter version of the Hubbard method, which used to run 4 to 5 hours a day. And now we have it down to about 2 hours a day, and it's much more manageable. So, and we'll be talking a lot more in your questions about how this program works and how it can help you. But I just wanted to see that the California Medical Board actually challenged my father for using the Hubbard method. They thought he was a charlatan and a quack. And so what they did was they opened a probe or an investigation. And this was the 50-page response letter that he submitted that explained from a doctor's perspective with the medical literature to other doctors who are in the state board of, or the medical board's board of quality assurance. So this was the 50-page response letter that actually closed the probe and allowed him to carry on in 1987, and also made the state of California his largest client. So this was a very important paper, and it's actually published in my book. So one of the things that we found about the effects of toxins on fat cells is that they attack the mitochondria. And mitochondria are the powerhouses in your cells that produce ATP, or adenosine triphosphate energy. And anything that you're doing that, you're like right now, I'm talking, moving my hands, I'm producing ATP energy to do that. Well, the thing is that toxins, when they get into the fat cells, they will affect the mitochondria. So mitochondrial dysfunction is actually the root cause of many diseases, and most people don't realize this, especially medical doctors. So one thing, excuse me, I can tell my mouth is dry. One thing that people ask about before and after testing on this program is, can I do urine tests? Can I do, stool tests, blood tests, things like that? And the types of testing that are currently available to people, or at least for the most part, are the urine, stool, blood, and hair. Now, these are tests that, like in the case of urine and stool, are going to show what the body's excreting. So that doesn't give you a really good level of toxicity. The hair tests are testing for enzymatic activity, or how the minerals are being tested. Basically they're getting counts, but they're associating that to the toxicity levels. So we don't even count on those. And besides, if you did a pre and post of any of these tests that I've just described, what you're going to find is that you'll be at one level at the beginning, and then at the end, instead of being lower like you would like to see it, you'll be actually higher, because you're actually seeing the body excreting things better. So, and with a hair test, you're going to probably have to give it about 6 months before you can actually do a follow-up test to begin with. That's just to give the body a chance to grow that region of hair. Bioresonance devices are something else that we've been testing. I have not been satisfied that they are able to do a pre and post detox. The only way we were able to do studies was using the fat biopsies. So the fat biopsies were done with 6-inch biopsy needles that were actually shoved into the rumps of the patients. So whenever we did studies, we were having to do actual fat biopsies. And in fact, my father was known for a study that he did on capacitor workers. In fact, I'll just go ahead and click through, because this is really the important thing to know about the testing that we did, the studies. So one of the things I mentioned about how the urine and stool tests are going to show higher levels at the end is because we're actually resetting the metabolism. And I talk about detoxination, by the way, which I hope you have seen in the video. is a concatenation of detoxification and decontamination, and that's where that trademark word came from. All right, the studies that were done, this is 4 of them that are easily found. And in fact, we have a page on our website that's just getdetoxinated.com/studies. But the 4 main ones here are some capacitor workers that were from Slovenia. And this is the main study that is going to lead to the rest of them, because this is where my father's fat biopsies proved that the fat content of PCBs from capacitor workers was 200 times greater than the blood serum tests revealed. So they realized that the fat was the only way to actually get a good, accurate measure. And sure enough, when they did their studies, and they did before and after, they were able to validate that there was a body burden reduction of about 30 to 65%. That's very important to understand, that the body is being reduced in body burden by only about 30 to 65% on a 30-day program. Keep that in mind, because many people, especially with gadolinium toxicity, are going to need to do this program more than once. So keep that in mind. So the Utah Meth Cops Project was another famous one. This is the one that really has the most effect because of the length of time that that one ran. So the New York Rescue Workers Detoxification Project treated over 4,000 first responders who were at the cleanup of Ground Zero. And back in those days, they weren't really worried about the air quality because they were told that it was safe. And then the Gulf War Syndrome study was just recently done. So, excuse me, I need a lot of water. Anyway, so this was the capacitor workers study, and this is where they showed that the fat content of the PCBs was 200 times greater than the blood serum tests revealed. So the cleanup efforts, you can see that they're back there. Some of these folks weren't even wearing PPE or personal protective equipment. What they were detoxing out of these folks was apparently high levels of manganese. So the blue and purplish color there is actually morbidly high levels of manganese. This is from that New York Rescue Workers Detox Project. So this is a PubMed study you can find. This is from one of the meth lab cops. So this is a cop who raided over 180 different meth labs. And every day he was on the protocol, he was actually producing towels that were very colorful. Some would be just brown, some would be blue, and some would be tie-dye, like the one you're seeing here. And we found that the blue was actually sodium hydroxide, otherwise known as Drano, which is one of the solvents used to manufacture meth. So this is the study from that one. And if you would like to see more of the studies, you can go to our website, getdetoxinated.com/studies. And if you're not a member of my Facebook group, I highly encourage you to join, because we do have a lot of people. In fact, I asked people what brought them to my group, and basically gadolinium is at 3%, but you have to realize there was like, I think 4,709 votes, and 173 people from the group reported that they had gadolinium. Now, we've talked about mitochondrial dysfunction, and this study confirms what I pretty much knew already, is that the gadolinium is also causing mitochondrial toxicity and cell death. So just know that I had suspicions about that all along, and sure enough. So these are GAD-specific enhancements to our protocol that I want to give Marcia Sabal a lot of credit for being instrumental in helping me with this, because we recognize that there are many things that can cause flare-ups on our protocol. So Marcia has worked with me to bring together this list of enhancements, and I agree with them. So she's using ginger tea or capsules as an anti-inflammatory, and I do agree. In fact, there's another slide I'm going to show you that explains that in greater detail. Milk thistle to support the liver, also a great addition. Now, calcium, D3, K2, magnesium, and boron do help with calcium uptake in the bones. And we are seeing that with gadolinium toxicity, there is an issue with calcium. However, right now, we're kind of on the fence with things. There are things like oxalates that can affect how gadolinium and the calcium work in the body. So I think on a case-by-case basis, we really have to look at how we provide calcium. But we do in the program, we've always had a CalMag beverage, which is a calcium gluconate and magnesium carbonate, which is mixed with apple cider vinegar. And the reason for that is because the calcium is very alkaline and it will go right through your body. So with the apple cider vinegar, we're actually reducing the pH of the calcium, and the calcium magnesium blend is far more bioavailable and will be taken up into the bones much better. Now, the K2 and boron are in red because those are the additions. We have been providing the other elements. So now, several studies do indicate that the vitamin K2 as MK7 may have a major role in bone homeostasis. Now, this is something that I pulled from a website, but I just want you to know that this is very important for your bones to be able to uptake the calcium. So this is something that Marcia also added regarding the ginger. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw this up there, but basically antioxidant properties, and they're high anti-inflammatory, as we've already mentioned, but they can reduce pain, swelling, and tissue damage. They can also enhance digestion. So I'll let you all read through these. And in fact, the slide deck will be available. I don't want to read through all of them right now. Now, if you've never done the flushing form of niacin before, I wanted you to see this quick little slide because this is a time lapse of me taking 200 milligrams after not having niacin for a while. So you can see that the capillaries have opened and the red blood cells are being able to flow out to the dermis layers and they're turning my skin red. So this is what I looked like when I took that 200 milligrams. By the way, there is an itchy, prickly sensation that follows the flush that is caused by the histamine response, trying to figure out why there's vasodilation of the capillaries. So that's what that's all about. So now this is the end of my slide deck presentation. And what I want to do now is stop share and allow you folks to jump on and let's see if we've got anybody who's got questions they'd like to ask.
Hi, I have a question about the niacin flush.
Sure.
I was asking my cardiologist about it this week when I had an appointment, and they said that because I have high cholesterol, that I need to make sure I don't have any blockages that could be dislodged before I start on the niacin.
That's an interesting concept because niacin is used for therapies for high cholesterol. It helps to improve the HDL and lower the LDL. So niacin is a very therapeutic, or has a very therapeutic aspect to it for cholesterol. So.
Right. But she just said that I might want to have a heart catheterization to make sure there's no plaques that could be dislodged if I start that by opening up my capillaries, that it could dislodge some cholesterol deposits that might be calcified and stuff, that it might loosen them up, and that I just want to be real cautious about that.
Certainly, and just know I cannot give medical advice, but I can certainly tell you that I've never had an instance where I've ever seen anybody with high cholesterol have any kind of plaque dislodged by the flush. This is an area, though, that your primary care practitioner definitely should be, giving the advice on.
Yeah, it was actually the cardiologist, but yeah, I got a gene defect that extreme highly cholesterol in the 600s. So it's not just your everyday cholesterol. I've been having it since birth. So anyway, yeah, it's maybe a little different than for everybody else. But yeah, but she said to definitely start on the sauna, but to make sure and check with them before I start the niacin.
Right, and you can always start at very low doses. In fact, we would have you start at 50 milligrams anyway, and then work your way up. So that would allow your body to experience a flush at 50 milligrams and find out if you're having any kind of issues with that. But again, in your case, you probably should be very cautious with it. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I saw somebody raise their hand. Go ahead, Laura.
So my question is, because the toxins are getting stored in your adipose fat tissue, does that cause weight gain?
Very good question. First of all, let me just tell you that we don't promote terribly high the fact that this is a weight loss program, because that actually changes our insurance. But
Yes.
the interesting thing there is that yes, the problem with weight control issues and obesity are very highly linked to the problem with what are called lipophilic xenobiotics. That's the actual term. So the lipophilic xenobiotics, by the way, is fat attracted or fat soluble heavy metals and synthetic chemicals that are foreign to the body. And when I talk toxins, I'm not talking about plant or animal poisons or venoms and things that are actually the true definition of toxin. We are dealing with these lipophilic xenobiotics. And once they get into the fat cells, what happens is they disrupt the proteins and enzymes mitochondria require for energy production. And so we get mitochondrial dysfunction because of the actions. Now, this is a layman's description. There's a lot more to this.
Yeah.
Just know that, yeah, the protocol, we see weight loss as a side effect of the program, because the fat is able to participate again in ATP production. So once you've cleaned it. Now, again, I'm going to stress the fact that our protocol has demonstrated a 30 to 65% reduction of body burden based on a 30-day program. And it's also conditionally, the conditions are the fact that the toxicity levels are different in people, the different toxins or xenobiotics are different, and the body weight matters in this case. So there's a lot of variables involved. And with gadolinium, our gut feel right now, without being able to truly test this, is that we're seeing about maybe a 15 to 20% reduction in gadolinium. So, many people will have to do this protocol more than once, probably 3 to 4 times if you have gadolinium. So just.
Yeah, I actually spoke to you about 3 years ago when I first got poisoned. And
yes, I thought I recognized the name.
Yeah, it's me. And I actually did your protocol twice. And
wonderful.
And I didn't do it again, but then I gained weight after I stopped doing it.
Yeah, so, it's worth doing another round.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Good to talk with you again.
Me too.
Mike, I guess go ahead.
Hey, Dan, thanks so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, I'm sure you've had all sorts of very sick people do this, but obviously, my situation is maybe a little different. I have had gadolinium poisoning for 3 years and lived a mostly normal life, maybe like 85% of before gadolinium. And then I got long COVID, and I've been bedbound for a while, but I'm kind of looking at this as a way to maybe address the root cause of what I think is driving my long COVID, which is gadolinium and my body's inability to fight back. I guess my question is the protocol adaptable in any way to people who, kind of live sedentary lifestyles? And I'm just kind of thinking, how in the world am I going to exercise 20 minutes a day before an hour and 15 minutes of sauna? So I know you posted, the 5-day protocol and stuff like that, but is there any way that it's adaptable for the full protocol?
Absolutely. In fact, thank you for bringing that up, because a lot of people I work with are not able to do a 20 to 30 minute aerobic exercise. What we do in that case is we instruct on Wim Hof breathing techniques. So there are several techniques that Wim Hof has developed. And if you've not heard of him before, he's also known as the Iceman, spelled W-I-M and then H-O-F. So Wim Hof breathing techniques are perfectly acceptable for getting the heart rate up. That's all we really care about with the exercise, is getting the heart rate up, so that the liberated toxins that are already now into the bloodstream are going to be pumped out to the dermis layers. So if you cannot do regular exercise, that's one way. Rebounder is another way some people are able to do exercise. But literally, I've even got a chi machine at my office that we put people on. So it's something that they lay down, they put their feet up in the stirrups, and it does a infinity motion that gets the whole body moving like a fish swimming in the ocean. And that actually gets the lymphatic system and the blood flowing.
That's awesome. I do like Wim Hof. I've done his breathing methods, so that's great to know.
Yes.
You said that machine is called a rebounder? I've never heard of it.
A rebounder is basically a mini trampoline.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to ask, the one thing that I have found to help with gadolinium, I haven't been able to even get to the facility to do it for long COVID, but the one thing I found helpful was hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I was wondering if you think that there would be any issues with doing that concurrently with the protocol.
I have people who've done that or have attempted it. It's not my, I don't include it in as an add-on or an enhancement because there are values, there's value to having hyperbaric oxygen therapies, but when they start advertising it as a detox method, I kind of shake my head. Detox means you have to really get it out of the body, and our protocol exploits the largest detox organ of the body, the skin. And also we use binders, whereas the Hubbard method originally never used binders, which was a huge missed opportunity. In fact, I went through the Hubbard method back in 1986, and it was really quite grueling. 4 to 5 hours a day, no binders. And we were really basically, feeling like headache, nausea, and everything else throughout the rest of the day. The binders have dramatically improved that. But essentially, this program has several things that can be modified for people with certain conditions. And so that's why I recommend people work with me as a remote detox coach, because even though you can't come to my center for the most part, I know most of you can't, we've tried to make this as self-directed or DIY as best as humanly possible. And in fact, I'm about to release the second edition of my book because the first edition was based mostly on coming to a center. And there was many things that we knew that needed to be changed. And I finally have been working on the second edition, which should be released in the next 2 weeks, by the way. So I hope that answered the question.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I will definitely be in touch about working remotely together. Thank you, Mike. I look forward to it. Howard?
Yeah. Hi, Dan. Good to be able to talk to you. Thank you for doing this. This is very useful. So my question basically is, a lot of people like myself who've been poisoned by gadolinium, many people get better with time. Unfortunately, some don't. It seems like those who do get better with time on their own, it's probably not because they're excreting the stuff. Unfortunately, it's probably because the stuff is settling into their deep tissues and just getting out of circulation and sort of hiding away and keeping quiet for a while. So, so when we go ahead and do this program, and you take the niacin, and it's basically liberating a lot of these toxins from the fatty tissues and cells, and putting it into circulation, so you can go ahead and basically sweat it out. Mm-hmm. How much do we have to worry about the fact that we've gone ahead and liberated a lot of this stuff? And obviously, you can't sweat out 100% of it. Some of it's going to be hanging out somewhere in your body for a while until something happens to it.
Right. So just know that the protocol originally, by not using binders, was leaving a lot of stuff that was going through the GI tract, because many xenobiotics, including gadolinium, will permeate the GI tract lining, get back in, and go through the system again and again and again. In fact, anytime we do anything strenuous or require a lot more ATP energy, and we see the free fatty acid levels increase in the blood plasma, what's happening is we're getting this effect of a siphon, if you will, for lack of a better way to describe this, where toxins are being released from fat. So a lot of stuff that may have been helping these gadolinium toxic patients recover naturally may have actually a lot to do with the fact they were getting stuff out of their system, because it is constantly being liberated and mobilized. But the threat is that that might redistribute somewhere else, including the brain or bone, of course. And by the way, I want to cover that one too, because the bone has adipose marrow tissues, and we believe that that's one of the main places where in the bone the gadolinium will reside. But just know that anytime you're doing anything that requires ATP energy, and any adipose tissues can participate in that, you're going to have things released, and they're going to go back into the blood. Now, you're right that the body is not going to sweat out everything, and in fact, we'd never see 100% reduction in body burden. But this program has definitely value to reducing the body burden. It's just 30 to 65% each time. But the fact is that the way the protocol was designed, it's designed to get most of the stuff out through sweat. And now with the binders, we're picking up the rest of the stuff. Now, we have a 72-hour window that we've pretty much expected now, that shows that a toxic molecule of any kind, gadolinium, for example, will be released from fat, will go back through the interstitial fluids, will get back into the blood, and it will either be excreted through sweat, it'll be picked up by binders eventually, or it will resequester. So that is, going through enterohepatic recirculation several times, which is being processed by the liver several times. So anyway, there is about a 72-hour window, and we have to be cognizant of that towards the end of a 30-day program. So we taper down niacin so we don't liberate anything new. And that way you're going to let the body deal with what's already been liberated. But frankly, the risk of redistribution is always there. So, but frankly, we're seeing some great results. In fact, I've got Marcia Sabol on the line, I think still. I hope she'll chime in and let people know what her situation's been like.
Okay. Great, thank you for answering that.
I hope that was a good answer.
Well, it was excellent, thank you.
Okay.
Can I chime in now, Dan?
You certainly can. I know your time is limited.
Okay. Well, like he was saying, toxins, gadolinium coming out in sweat. So like you said, also with the binders. So I don't know how much was coming out of my body in sweat, but I did a stool test while I was on the protocol and taking the zeolite, and my gadolinium was off the charts high, so high that they had to send it to another Dr. Dada's lab because they thought they had wrong results. And I did it also when I was not on the protocol, and it was normal. Their normal level is 0.03, and mine was 0.02. And while on the protocol, it was 0.897, which is crazy high.
Yeah.
So it does come out. And I mean, in my last MRI with GAD was done in November of 2015. And these tests that I did on my stool were in January of 2022. And also when I did my first protocol, actually it was my second protocol, it was in January of 2020. I didn't see anything come out on my towels. So Jody, who was also gadolinium toxic, said, do you have anything black? Can you put on a black sweatshirt or something? So for my first sauna protocol, I put on my black sweatshirt, and of course it was saturated. So, but when I let it dry, it was like gray. It wasn't black anymore. So something was obviously coming out in my sweat.
If you don't mind, Marcia, I'd love to show those pictures.
No, that would be great.
Let me bring up, this was one of your posts, and then I'll bring up some of the individual slides. If I can minimize what I've got going here so I can share. So are you all seeing these pictures? Is that showing, Marcia?
Yep.
Okay. So this was a collage, but these are the actual individual shots. A little bit fuzzy there, and this is the way it was to start. So there's one more picture here. Anyway, so people are able to see that. It's really impressive. All right.
Big difference.
Very much so. Very much so. I was so glad to see those pictures when you sent them. Thank you. All right, I've got, is that Philly?
Hi, Dan, it's Felicia.
Oh, hi, Felicia. I was thinking it might be.
I guess I just have an abbreviation. Yeah, so I had a couple questions. First one is, and I'll just tell you both at once. Can I be doing other things like daily coffee enemas, which my body's kind of used to by now, and or like a couple of Epsom salt baths a week, and or the foot detox, the ionic foot detox, and then while I'm doing the protocol. And then the other one is, do I need to do the MTHFR ramp up? if I'm have 2 copies of heterozygous MTHFR?
Okay, so the first question is, my father would probably say no to the coffee enemas. He's never been a big fan of those, but I've had others do the protocol and do coffee enemas at the same time. They are actually not a good idea to do together because they're both strenuous on the body. However, I've had people do it. And, normally I don't like mixing protocols, but the other 2 that you mentioned are definitely okay to do. Although if your foot bath is not an expensive unit, it may just be producing rust. So just know that. I'm not a huge fan of foot baths, but the expensive units tend to be more legitimate. Feet are going to, because of the lack of sebaceous glands in both your hands and feet, they are going to absorb more than they're going to release. So I've never been a huge proponent of those, but you can do those, yes. And now, as far as the MTHFR goes, this is going to shock a lot of people to hear, I'm sure. But ever since the Human Genome Project, they have loved to show that your genetics are the problem for just about everything. And the reality is that we're dealing with man-made chemicals or synthetic chemicals. These are xenobiotics. And so the liver, our livers have not adapted to being able to process most of these. And when the liver attempts to process some of these man-made chemicals, it winds up causing them to become more, or the byproducts tend to be more toxic to the body. So the reality is that everybody has detox problems, and MTHFR is being blamed like the shiny, watch over here, it's the shiny, but really the problem is we're causing mitochondrial dysfunction. So the thing is that I have never had a problem with anybody on it, on the protocol with MTHFR. The ones who are under methylators, those are the ones who are more concerned about it. And in reality, niacin is a methyl sponge. But the beauty is that we've always used lecithin, which produces choline in the body, and that actually makes the cell membranes more permeable. But lecithin also is an oil it's an emulsifier, so it breaks down oils. And there's oils used in the protocol. They're polyunsaturated cold pressed oils. So we take the lecithin to break down those oils. But just know that lecithin, once it produces choline, is providing a methyl donor. So we've never had an issue with MTHFR. Okay, I don't see that she's got her mic on anymore, so I hope that helped. Anyway, Kevin.
Hey, thank you for taking my question. I appreciate it. I think you kind of answered not, co-mingling protocols, but I wanted to get your thoughts on doing the niacin protocol along with DTPA chelation.
Okay, that's a good one.
So, just a little history in me, gadolinium poison, it took a while to figure it out. So I'm sure some settled and still kind of dealing with the fallout years later. So.
Yes. Okay. So I do know that the DTPA on our protocol is perfectly okay to combine. I've had several people who've done one chelation a week while on our program. And one person in particular, who's apparently not on the call today, has had her own doctor say that she's gotten the best results he's ever seen by using our protocol with his chelation. So if you wish to do that, by all means, it's okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Erica?
Hi, just kind of piggybacking off of Mike's question. I'm extremely heat sensitive. So I was wondering if it's beneficial to maybe just do like a week or 2 weeks in the sauna without any supplements. I would maybe take binders, but without doing niacin. Would that be beneficial before starting the protocol?
Yes, in fact, that's a good question to bring up right now, because there are 2 different types of saunas that are acceptable for use on the protocol, one being the dry or finished saunas, which were historically used throughout the 30 years my father was involved. And so those have to run at 180 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit in order to use convection to heat the body. So the heat has to be, very hot for that. And most people do have a problem tolerating that for more than 15 to 20 minutes. With an infrared sauna, on the other hand, the way the infrared light works, it's invisible light, but it penetrates about 1.5 inches deep under the skin, and it resonates with the fluids in your cells to produce the heat. So the vibrational action is what's causing the heat. So you can run an infrared sauna at much lower temperatures. I'm talking like 110, 120. And still get a benefit, and it's more tolerable, and we do want to see you do more time in the sauna, so you do want to work up to it. I have a 5-day niacin flush sauna detox, which is a primer, however you like to say that word, for our full program. Actually, I've called it a 5-day, but it literally can be done for a week or two, or whenever you've got time, because although with the advancements we've made from the Hubbard method, we now know that the work was actually being done in the last 2 hours of a 4 to 5 hour a day program, but the flush had value. So the flush usually comes on within about 15 minutes of taking the capsule, because the capsule has to digest, and then the niacin flush hits. And they would typically have you doing the exercise around the time that you took the niacin, and then you would get the blood pumping and everything, and go into a dry sauna, and you'd be in and out of that sauna for 4 to 5 hours. So the flush had value, and we recognize that. So when you've got these capillaries wide open, more red blood cells are pushing through them. They're pushing any already bloodborne toxins out to the dermis layers to be sweated out, or to be picked up eventually by binders if they permeate the GI tract lining. So the thing is, we can operate at much lower temperatures, and with the binders, we can give you a much better, user experience. So I think with the heat intolerance, if you just work your way up in a sauna, an infrared sauna, mind you, and stay hydrated, and of course take plenty of electrolytes. And if you didn't know, electrolytes like potassium, calcium, magnesium, sodium chloride, things like that, those all help your body to absorb water, so that your tissues are actually better saturated. So you definitely want to be drinking a lot of fluids and taking electrolytes when you're doing the sauna, and that will help you to tolerate it better. But we don't normally start people out on a full 75-minute daily sauna. There's like a 45-minute cycle and then a 30-minute cycle. We also have done 3 30-minute cycles. In fact, you saw the meth cop that had the towels that were producing colorful material. He was doing 3 30-minute cycles in the sauna. But anyway, the thing is that you work up to that full 75 minutes. So if you take the first week to get yourself acclimated to the sauna heat, you'll do yourself a huge favor. So I think it's worth giving it the 5-day flush. In fact, I have that posted on my Facebook group, so you can join the group and download that from the files.
Yes, I have joined the group, but just to clarify, is it all right if I just try out the sauna without the niacin too?
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. In fact, I encourage people to get acclimated to having a sauna, getting used to the fact that you're going to be in there for 45 minutes and then another 30-minute program or cycle. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Kevin, you had another question? Your hand was up.
Oh, no, I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
I forgot to unraise it. Yeah.
All right. Hi, Debbie.
Hey, Dan. Thank you so much for joining. I'm sorry I was late. My machines wouldn't go live with the link, but that's here nor there. Hey, I wanted to address questions related to supplements.
Okay.
And then secondary is a lot of people in the GAD group that I've met, we all get new autoimmune disorder labels. I call them labels. And then one of those that seems really prevalent in the group is MCAS.
MCAS, yes.
Yeah, MCAS, right?
Yeah, mast cell activation syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah, and so maybe you can talk to that and how the niacin protocol helps relieve some of those, because those are just reactions that we're all having, right? And we're trying to calm the body down as we reduce the burden. So how would you, like to frame that for us?
Certainly. So as far as the supplements go, I prefer the term replenishments, because we are sweating out the good stuff with the bad. It's mostly, though, those same minerals that I've already described, the potassium, calcium, magnesium, sodium, and chloride, but we're also sweating out some of the fat soluble vitamins as well. we do need to replenish those. The original Hubbard method was way overboard with their dosing schedules. I no longer adhere to those. But when it comes to minerals and electrolytes, we do keep those at high levels because of the fact that we are sweating those out with the bad stuff. So now, as far as MCAS or any kind of histamine issues, niacin, yes, is going to cause histamines to be released. But the reason that we aren't too concerned about it is because we do high doses of vitamin C on this program as well. The high doses of vitamin C are for several reasons. In fact, one of them is kind of humorous, but the vitamin C is a histamine destroyer, and Dr. Abram Hoffer, the guru of niacin, was using high doses, like to bowel tolerance of vitamin C, to or basically cure MCAS. But what he was doing was he was loading up the body with vitamin C, and then he would introduce niacin to trigger the histamine response. And the vitamin C would basically gobble up the, I always picture Pac-Man on that one, go around gobbling up all of the histamines. So he was curing actually MCAS with high doses of vitamin C and niacin. The beauty about our protocol is when you use niacin on a chronic basis, in other words, every day that we're on the program, we're either titrating up or maintaining a certain level. But every day on the protocol, you're taking niacin. And what happens is that the prostaglandins, which actually cause the vasodilation because they're hormones in the capillary walls. And so there's only so much blood that can pass through a capillary. But once you take niacin, it releases prostaglandins, which relax the muscles and allow more red blood cells to flow through. Well, that
kind of like a fire hose, huh?
Yeah, kind of. And the body wants to know what caused that. So there's a histamine response. We've got somebody already in the waiting room that causes a histamine response. And so, basically, when you're on this protocol, we're depleting the cell histamines and prostaglandins. So eventually, and it's usually within the first, maybe 10 days or so, the flush no longer may appear. And in fact, the flush is so unpredictable that, you'll be going like maybe on the 15th day and hadn't had a flush in several days, and suddenly there'll be one. You just don't know because your body's had a chance to replenish the prostaglandins and histamines. But by using niacin on a chronic basis, like we do on the program, people who do have histamine intolerance are finding that they're able to do it because it will go away.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
No,
and thank you for doing this. I appreciate you doing this call. So
it's my pleasure.
Information, a lot of great information.
Thank you so much. And I should finish with the vitamin C. The humorous side of vitamin C is that the binders, activated charcoal, sometimes bentonite clay. Some people even report zeolite causes constipation. I find that difficult, or difficult to believe. But the bentonite clay and activated charcoal are definitely known for causing constipation. And so when you take high doses of vitamin C, you are basically, causing the bowel tolerance to, break down that constipation. So that if you do suffer constipation while on the program, we just tell you to take more vitamin C. So
can I ask a question about vitamin C?
Yes.
I was raised in a family where we only took vitamin C that had rosehip with it versus ascorbic acid. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I am a fan of natural vitamin C because ascorbic acid is just a component of it. But because we need such high doses of it, I just have to fall back on the ascorbic acid. If we could find a good source for, pure vitamin C, I would prefer that most definitely. But we are taking such high doses that it just has to come in either a capsule or powder form. And so ascorbic acid is about the best way to get that right now.
Okay, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I don't see any other hands up, and I know that somebody just joined. It's probably missed out on quite a bit, but fortunately we are recording this. So I'll be sending the link to Debbie after this gets downloaded. So anyway, does anybody else have any other questions? Oh, there's somebody. Hi, Felicia.
Hi, so do you recommend for MTHFR doing the ramp up?
Yes, I do, just because it's a good idea for anybody to ramp up, to be honest. This is a the MTHFR and adrenal fatigue ramp up that I have on my page or my Facebook group. was borrowed somewhat from Dr. Ben Lynch. So I figured that his information is probably better than anything I can come up with. So I did do a ramp up based on his information. But frankly, I think, everybody really should start a ramp up program. And by the way, I will tell you guys that the protocol doesn't technically start until somebody hits 500 milligrams. And we have what's also called a target niacin dose, which is 10 milligrams per kilogram. So somewhere between 500 milligrams and your target niacin dose is when your body starts triggering rebound lipolysis. And that I'm going to have to defer you back to my 48-minute video to learn more about. But just know that we don't even consider you on the program until you hit 500 milligrams of niacin. So the first day of doing like 50 milligrams, if you want to do a ramp up, is just to get you started with the flush and then get you acclimated to being in the sauna with the flush. So you'll do 100 milligrams maybe the next day. And literally on the ramp ups, you can maintain the same niacin dose as long as you're flushing until it stops. And then you can go ahead and, increase your dose. But the goal here is on a ramp up is to really just take advantage of a niacin flush while in a sauna and getting your body used to the whole concept. But once you start hitting the 500 milligram level, you really want to be doing everything according to the protocol. And I'm going to point out something about our protocol. We don't publish that for free simply because it's extremely powerful. And in fact, if you're on psych medications, it will cause instant withdrawals. That's how powerful it is. So we have you either pay $10 for a PDF version that's just chapter 3 of my book. And then the book itself on Amazon is $24.95. The reason I have you put some money into it is simply because if you don't have skin in the game, you're probably going to dabble. And if you dabble, you're going to get yourself into trouble. So we figure if you at least put $10 into it, you're going to probably follow it and do it correctly. And I encourage everybody, especially with gadolinium toxicity, to work with me as your remote detox coach. And by the way, that coaching service is $399. It includes a video tutorial course, and it comes with that guidebook that I mentioned. So, but you have unlimited access to me every time you have to do this program for that $399. I'm with you each time you do it, and it's worth your effort to engage my services so that you get the most out of the protocol that you possibly can. Basically coming to the center is the best answer, but at this time, I don't encourage that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to announce something that I didn't think I would, but I have an investment group that's about to help me to build centers in 340 major cities across the United States. So we are rolling out a center, and it's going to be something that will be MCS friendly. So people with multiple chemical sensitivity, they'll be able to use the centers, and you can certainly come to the center to do your program. So that's an exciting new announcement, and I hope that we can roll these out in a hurry. But as things have been going with COVID, we've been delayed already by 2 years. So Mike, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, by the way, that's awesome. Congratulations. I look forward to hearing more about that. I just wanted to ask, like, generally, in terms of patient experiences, like, do you find that people start to feel better in the second week or third week, or not till the end, or 6 weeks after? Like, what's kind of normal?
Good for that question. Thank you for asking that, because literally everybody's different. So it depends on your toxicity level. And I do tell people to expect within the first 7 to 10 days that you're going to, be having detox symptoms, which I also refer to as manifestations. So you see manifestations as a document in my Facebook group files. But the thing is that the first 7 to 10 days will be the ones that you're probably going to experience the like headache, nausea, fatigue, possibly vomiting and diarrhea. After that, things start to smooth out for most people. Now, many people will not see the type of gains that they're hoping for while on the program. However, since we tell you to do, knowing that you're going to do multiple, 30-day programs, we tell you to do 30 days on and then at least an equal amount of time off, like 30 to 45 days off, and then do another 30-day program. Well, it's during that period of time where people are not doing the program that they start to experience the gains, especially the weight loss, by the way. But that was a good question, because everybody is different when it comes to that.
Great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I've got somebody asking if you have a center near me. Absolutely, Laura. So here's the thing. We are also offering detoxination training. I'm a detoxination, by the way. So we are offering detoxination training. That is something I've been feverishly working on. In fact, that's the impetus for the second edition of my book. I had to get the rewrite, with all the updates that have occurred since we started this back in the public view of this back in 2017 is about when we started. This is based on over 30 years of clinical validation, which, there are over 25 published studies, the California Medical Board's approval. And so even though it came from such interesting beginnings like the Hubbard method, the purification rundown, it is absolutely very valid and very effective. And in fact, I went through it in 1986, and just as of this last Monday, I turned 59. I frankly feel like a healthy 39-year-old because I do this program on a regular basis, and I'm in my sauna pretty much daily for 30 minutes. So I do not feel like I'm a 59-year-old. So anyway, anybody else have questions? Okay, so is that a question?
Yeah, I have one. I don't know how to raise my hand.
Okay, no problem.
I just had a couple more questions. Recently, I got diagnosed with a stage 3 liver fibrosis, which I didn't have prior to the gadolinium. So I think that a lot of it's clogged up in my liver. I had a liver scan. I had the EOVIS that 50% is supposed to be, flow through your liver. Anyway, it's stuck there. And you mentioned that during this program that your liver will have to recycle a few times. Is that going to be a problem for me with the fibrosis, or will it help it?
It really could be. My recommendation to you is to start with zeolite. Just do zeolite and not anything else of our program, unless you do have a sauna. Then that's
it's on the way. Yeah.
Great. So the doing sauna and taking the binders like zeolite may actually do a lot of good for you there. But with the liver diagnosis, I have to, caution you that would be a contraindication or preclusion.
Okay, so maybe I should not do the niacin with that. Like the whole protocol, I might need to put the brakes on and talk to you about ways around. Yeah,
in fact, I would certainly encourage you to work on that fibrosis in the liver and see if you can get that reduced to the point where it would be your primary care practitioner's blessing, in other words, to do the program. And by the way, we do have documentation on our both our website and our Facebook group that explains this protocol to practitioners. So if you'd like to download the document and provide it to your practitioner, most medical doctors have no idea about this program. I'm so glad to know or to hear now that many holistic practitioners and functional medicine doctors are starting to recommend this program, because it literally is the foundation for wellness. Getting the toxins out of the body is the best thing you can do, and then from there work on everything else, but unfortunately this protocol is not for everybody. There are contraindications and preclusions that we've detailed in our files section of the Facebook group, also in the book, that tell you, what kinds of conditions not to do this program with. And just, for a handful of them, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, lactating, things like that, no, you don't do the protocol. If you've got heart conditions, especially if you have pacemakers, defibrillators, or anything like that, you really should not be doing this. I will say, however, people with implants can do the protocol with the infrared sauna. Infrared bounces off of any metal implants, whereas the dry sauna will heat them up. So I'm kind of going off on a tangent with this, but just know that I think you need to deal with the liver condition first, and then consider doing the program.
I actually haven't had a lot of direction on how to deal with that. My liver doctor, just kind of tried to say, well, it's not really what we used to think it was. He didn't offer any suggestions on how to fix it. See me in a year.
So I would recommend you check out Dr. Joseph Pizzorno's The Toxin Solution. I recommend it in my book even. He helps you with your gut, your liver, and your kidneys before getting into a sauna. He actually talks about his protocol leads you to sauna. So I wish I'd met him before he published his book, and he could have then talked about our protocol. But
maybe getting into the sauna even without the niacin and other things, it might not be good with the liver problem.
Oh no, you should be able to handle going into a sauna with the liver. You just don't want to be liberating any toxins. So you're actually going to do your liver a favor by sweating out whatever's in the blood. So
okay. So that, like that doctor said about the niacin, go ahead and start on the sauna, but caution and make sure with the plaque and the liver before I start that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay. Well, I'm just going to then assume that Debbie's coming on.
Nope, I just want to say thank you. It sounds like you answered a ton of questions, and if you don't have more information, Dan, this has been great. And thank you for making it available to us. We have a hard time posting it on Facebook, a lot of these Zoom calls. So what we'll probably do is put it on our YouTube page if we have your permission to put it there. We have a YouTube page now, thanks to one of the members of the group, and she posts Wonderful. The links there, and then we co-link it if that works for you.
Sure, and I can also put it onto my own YouTube channel. What I'll do is I'll upload the file to Google Drive, and then you can download the full file from there. So.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I'll work with you offline on that. But yeah, we'll make it available to the group, and we appreciate you making it available. Sometimes some of the people who've presented haven't felt comfortable making it public, the audio and the video. So we appreciate that, because I think other people will listen to it at their own leisure.
Absolutely, and my pleasure. No, thank you all for joining, and I hope that you get a chance to try our program. And again, I'd look forward to working with you if you are, wanting to engage my remote detox coaching. And my website is www.getdetoxinated.com. So if you go there, you'll find it in our shop. There's several things you can look at there, including the guidebook. So anyway, I think we'll just go ahead and wrap it up then if nobody else has any questions. Okay. Well, thank you again, and have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.